Welcome to the Big Movement Podcast. If you're ready to create results and make huge strides in your business, finances, personal development, and health, then you're in the right place. Pushing past excuses and powering through procrastination can be a challenge alone. Here, you'll get the support, tools, and knowledge you need to get to the level you desire in your business and life. Let's get started with your host, Byron Ingram.
And welcome to the Big Movement Podcast. And today we have a special guest. We have Lauren Herrera, who is a love, abundance, and happiness coach, helping men and women in over 100 countries create a more meaningful and loving relationships with themselves, other than their finances, with doing things one-on-one, with group coaching. And she has our world-renowned podcast, Love-is-a-Verb. She's also a Navy and law enforcement wife, a stepmom, and a dog mom of 3 pups who she's naturally obsessed with. So let's give a warm welcome to Lauren Herrera. So welcome, Lauren.
Hello, Byron. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. It's a great day when you can be able to have great conversations like this and learn more about what you do.
Absolutely. Well, I'm a podcaster also. And so this is one of my favorite things. I feel like I have friends all over the world because of podcasting. Oh,
that's a great thing to do. So tell us a little bit more about your background. How did you get to where you are today? Because you have an amazing journey.
I do. And it's supercharged with a nervous breakdown, a financial breakdown, a stalker. I've been through a lot, and it's definitely led me to where I am today. And I'm super grateful for everything that's happened. And Love-is-a-Verb podcast has been such a gift to my life. It was something that was, I believe was given to me through divine intelligence to host it. And through it, I've learned so much about self-love, law of attraction, universal intelligence, God, all of those things. And leading up to it, if I just went piecemeal, the most recent to the last, breakdown, the most recent was having a brick and mortar strength training studio that failed, totally flopped, and ran out of money.
Wow.
Yeah, well, that was not the fun. That was really depressing.
Well, I don't think anybody's excited. It failed. Woohoo! Said no one ever.
said no one ever. Yeah, so we had this gym, and I built the gym off of my personal nervous breakdown in 2010, where strength training was just a big proponent of my healing process of getting out of a dark hole. And that gym was amazing. We had a lot of really fun clients where we did strength conditioning and Pilates. But it failed, and I was basically just cracked wide open to, be able to learn something new about law of attraction and business and entrepreneurship, as you've said, you've said it's all mindset, and it totally is. So that brought us to the podcast. But I just thinking, I don't want to talk too much. Oh my gosh, it's so funny to be on the other end of it.
Oh yes. Wait, I'm talking more. Well, of course you're in the other chair.
Yeah. Can you give me a question that's totally direct? Because I feel like I'm just going to ramble and bore everybody to death.
Oh, no, you're definitely not going to bore anybody to death. It's not like you're going to be reading from one of those things called an encyclopedia. And on page 217, we're now going to talk about the lifespan of butterflies. Nothing like that.
Oh, my gosh. Well,
so keep going, because, you had that business and you failed. And that's something that people need to understand. How did you overcome that? Because you think about how many times they lost their job, they either lost it because something dramatic happened and it kicked them in the tail, but they didn't do what you did. You got up and you rose to new heights, where some people, they stayed where they were after they were kicked down.
That's so funny that you say that, actually, because I've always been a person who could see both sides. I've been intuitive, and now that I know I'm so intuitive, I'm working on developing it as a skill, to help me and help other people very specifically. But what I've always been able to see since I was a kid of, I can do this and it will have this outcome, and I can do that and it will have that outcome. And I would get depressed about it because I would see worst case scenarios, and I'd ask my mom, I'm such a bad person if I can think this way. And she said, no, you're not. She's like, you're gifted. Now you know to always choose the right way. I'm like, okay, cool. So when I was going through that, we closed the gym on February 28th was when our lease expired, and it was all divine intervention. Nothing happened on accident. We literally were out of money when our lease expired. So we didn't, go into that much of a financial hole in that aspect of it. And that following Monday on March 1st or March 2nd, we opened up in a sublease at my friend's studio. And I was in this huge baseball facility where Major League Baseballers came in. I actually taught them once in a while Pilates. And it was huge. And here's this huge representation of where I could grow as a business. But I was so burnt out, so crushed from being a failure that it was depressing to walk into this huge space.
Okay.
So it says attempting to.
Oh, we're fine. It'll keep on going.
Oh, it'll keep going. Oh my God.
Yes,
that's
this
magic.
keeps on going. Oh, yes.
That's magic. Okay. So when I would go there, I'd be really depressed. And on the way driving in, I would think, I could just go get a minimum wage job anywhere and stay this broken because I had a quote unquote failed business, or I could deal with it and keep showing up and keep acting as if I have a business to see what would happen. Right. And so that was like your mindset piece. Like that was a huge decision, even though it was really hard and it required a lot of energy to do. I realized that I was at a pinnacle of keep going and let my entrepreneurship take form in whatever new form was going to happen, or say I had a failed business and always be that person that talked about way back when I had a business before I had to work here, I had a business, and live in that past moment.
Right. And, that in itself is powerful because you recognize that you had that choice. And you think about how many people, they don't realize there's always a choice. No matter how hard things are, they can decide just to throw up their hands up there like, oh, that's it. I give up. Whatever happens, happens. Or own the situation and keep pushing through. There's that expression. If you're halfway through hell, don't stop.
Yeah, because you'll stay there forever.
Right. That would be kind of hot. Like, oh, it's a little warm in here. So you have to keep on going. So then when you got through that, when was that moment that you decided to start your podcast to really accelerate things so you can influence more people? What was that moment?
Well, I think you're really going to appreciate this since you call your podcast The Big Movement, because it was I'm going to do it no matter what. So what happened was, the week after we closed the business, I went to a self-development day. I was in a beta program for a self-development company that was putting together a self-development online program for a huge international network marketing company that I use for my nutrition and my clients' nutrition. Okay. So I was one of about 140 people internationally to be chosen for this beta to do this self-development program. It was 45 days. It was really intense. It was most intense than anything I've ever done. I've done a lot of stuff in fitness and mindset types of things, and especially having a stalker, like having to do pretty intense therapy to get through some heavy things. So this was not different in the intensity of it. And what had happened was, because I was so broken from losing my identity as a business owner and being now a failed business owner, I was willing to go the distance because I knew something amazing would happen. So I played all out 110%. And there was a moment where I was in an RV because we were on a camping trip and I had an allergic reaction to sunscreen. I had 3 days inside and I had nothing to do but a book, my computer, my journal, and Instagram, right? The natural necessities.
Right, especially when you're camping.
So I'm scrolling through Instagram and I see an image of the world and it has a crack in it. And it says, before we can love and heal the world, we must first have the courage to love and heal ourselves. And I don't know what about that image did it for me, but all of a sudden everything made sense. And it was like this download from the universe of exactly what's supposed to happen, that you're going to have conversations with people about love. You're going to inspire people to love themselves. and then they will be the change they wish to see in the world, because we can't change the world. We can only change ourselves. So if enough of us are working on ourselves, we will then be the change, right? It's the Gandhi quote. So I popped into Facebook. I went into, Kim Luna's Freedom Hackers. I went to Marie Forleo's B School, and I'm like, who wants to talk about love, about how they love themselves? Any type of business. How does loving yourself relate to your finances, to your legal protection? And I just wanted to have a conversation about people's interpretation of self-love. And do you know, Byron, 140 people within 5 hours responded.
Wow.
So I was like, big movement. That's a sign. This is a conversation that definitely has to happen. And John Lee Dumas, I've, commented on some stuff in Paradise. I'm like, you prevented me from killing myself. Like I was so depressed driving my hour-long commute when I didn't have my business anymore. And I just listened to Entrepreneur on Fire every single day, multiple times a day, to hear people's worst moments in business so I wouldn't be so depressed. And when I saw 140 people in 5 hours, and John has said, have a month of content in the bank before you launch, I was like, are you kidding? That's a third of a year if I do a daily podcast. I'm in. And after that, I just learned what to do. And 4 months later, I had my first batch of interviews on Halloween. And then in January of 2016, we actually launched and went live. And we did 7 days a week of episodes up through mid-July, or mid-August. And then we switched to 5 days a week.
Okay. Oh, that's correct. That's amazing. So how's the podcast going so far, with it being 5 days a week now, and you've had it out for a little while?
Yeah, it's been out since January, so 8 months, and it's amazing. Like we have over 100,000 downloads and over 60,000 that are unique. And I've actually met people in person that said, "You are the girl from Love is a Verb podcast," and I think that's super cool. To impact people that I didn't even. I don't know exactly who's listening. I've gotten messages from people, and it's all about the fulfillment with the podcast is that people are not feeling alone, and they're seeing how their worst, most painful experiences are the catalyst to do something great within themselves and within the world.
That's amazing. And it's incredible how you turn that one instance in your life into something that's created change. Because you think about, with those 60,000 unique downloads, the number of people out there that have heard your message about love and loving themselves, and how that's changed their lives. And that's powerful. Because, that makes a huge difference in the world. Because if you think about that, you change their lives. How many lives are they impacting around them because you decided to spread a message? And that's powerful.
Yeah. And it's like, for me, my Facebook is so funny because we'll have, I have a very different reality with I call them all my woo-woo friends from the podcast world.
Yeah.
They're all this law of attraction and love, hug everybody, love everybody. And with military and law enforcement, it's a different perspective. Like, they're always ready for worst case scenario. And it's like I can like divide my podcast, my Facebook feed into two people: the people who are pissed off at everybody, and the people who are just like, if you just raise your vibration, everything will change. The world will change. Right. And a lot of times I look at it, I'm like, you guys are both wrong, actually. Like, whatever you're pissed off about, what's going on in the world or in your community, you have to figure that out within you, what's giving you the charge, and find that antidote, and then start living that antidote in your life. Because I think Gandhi got it right, that we can't change anybody's opinion, anybody's actions. It all has to be our own change. And that in the podcast, for me, is that. And it's just it's so exciting, because I'm hoping that people will more and more see that it's less about pointing the finger to make a difference, that the difference always comes back to the three fingers that are pointed at you.
Right. Now, you've accomplished something amazing. You think about, since January, having over 100,000 downloads to your podcast. What were some of those things that you've done to spread your message? Because you look at the number of podcasts that are out there, there's tons of them out there. And people, when they're growing their business, they're always looking, well, what's something I can do to spread the message? Because sometimes people feel overwhelmed with there being all that noise in the world. How do they stand out in that noisy world we live in?
Number one, Charles Haanel from the Master Key System. Are you familiar with the Master Key System?
No, not familiar with that.
So the original publication was in 1912, and Charles Haanel delivered it via postmail, one chapter at a time, to the students who read it. And they were instructed not to go on to the next chapter the following week until they could master the mindfulness exercise. And then it was published again, I think in like the 20s as like a full book. And so chapter 5 of the book talks about service. And so the only way for us to attain power, and power is not a bad thing to say that you're overpowering somebody, the number one way to attain power is to give more. So I think that part of the influence with the podcast of why it's been successful is that it's service, that there's definitely a message to help people. So number one, I think that we obviously promote businesses, and I promote my business within the podcast, but first and foremost, it's content to help people. So I think number one, being service-based. Number two, you guys, if you're thinking about podcasting, interviewing is at least doing some combination of having a few interviews within your lineup, because then you're going to increase your shares because the person being interviewed wants to share it. If it's just you, sometimes it's a little bit hard to get some traction. And number three would be the community with the people who you're doing interviews with. And like I said, like just get at least one interview in your roundup at some point, because my community of people who have been on the show, I consider them friends. We have our own green room on Facebook where I communicate with them and show them like the big vision of how I think that we can all grow our businesses together, since we're all aligned in our message.
Oh, that's excellent. I've always been a fan about giving more value, being of service. And I think it's something that people forget about. You look at how many times you see your news feed and you see Facebook ads that it's all about the sale instead of how can someone be of service to you? How can they help you with a problem? It's sometimes buy my stuff. And that's really the message you get. And it changes things dramatically. So now you're building your business here, and then you're also balancing your life with, in terms of, being a Navy and law enforcement wife. How are you doing that? Because, when you think of, I don't want to say the woo-ish world, but these are two different worlds entirely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It leads to some interesting discussion between my husband and myself. The balance is, and actually my husband is more, when I met him, I told him, you're a self-development book on legs. And I was really envious of him because he just very methodically chooses the positive perspective. He really doesn't let anything bother him. So he's a little bit unique. Like he's not a robot, and he pretty much leaves work at work and is a very grounded individual. So that definitely helps, that he's not a huge machismo, type of guy. But, to be quite honest with you, like schedule to schedule, like everything's very tightly wound and very planned out. When I record episodes, I'm recording Monday, Wednesdays, starting at 5 a.m., sometimes up until 3 p.m. with 10 to 20 minute breaks sometimes is the breaks that I get, because it's just so jam packed. The biggest way, without boring everybody with an exact schedule, the biggest way that I actually have the balance is that Monday through Friday, when it's a work day, I have built into my schedule focused imagination, so that I'm telling my subconscious what to look for and what to focus on versus letting the day rule me. Time to sit quietly and kind of cleanse my chakras and go into that little bit of woo-woo land, to journal and to anticipate the positive things that I want to have happen that day. And that seems to keep things in balance for the most part. And making it to the dog park as often as possible helps too.
I can only imagine how making it to the dog park has to have that huge impact, because of the energy and just being in the outdoors, especially when you're in front of your computer for so long, that you have to have that time of freedom where the only thing you have to really think about is, okay, what are my dogs getting into now?
Totally.
Yeah, that's it. So, with the focus of everything you're doing in terms of creating abundance and happiness, what do you, and you've conducted so many interviews now, what do you think are some of those key things people need to know about with creating abundance to attract happiness in their life?
Oh my God, it's like my favorite subject ever.
Well, awesome.
Well, number one, everyone has to know. They know this innately, but they forget that we are innately abundant. We lack zero. Absolutely nothing. We come with zero lack. And I'm talking even like if you're in a wheelchair, that is a form that you are in. There is not lack because there's something else that you're more programmed to be able to do. So it's just the form. It's the vehicle. It's not like my business flopped, but my vehicle of entrepreneurship changed shape. So it's just who you are. So number one, there's no lack. The thing that you know that you've just forgotten how to relate is that grass can grow through concrete. So if grass knows it is innately abundant and innately has a right to life, we are way more valuable to the universe than grass. And remembering that we have an inalienable right to abundance and happiness, that's the first thing that we have to do is remember that. The second thing you have to do is realize that we learn from our environment, from our culture, and from our parents and our upbringing. So whatever belief system you have, it's not necessarily yours. It's something that you picked up and that you learned. And so if it's not serving you, and how you know it's not serving you is if you feel depressed, if you feel sad, if you feel like a loser, if you feel like you're fat, you feel like you're ugly. If you feel those feelings, that's not your program. That's something that you learned. And my easiest go-to way, this is so simple, you guys are going to laugh, go to the thesaurus and look up the feeling that you have. If you feel like a loser, click on the antonyms for loser and see that it's winner, it's achiever, and figure out ways that you can start getting those feelings in your life every day. If something as simple as getting your laundry washed, folded, and put away is going to make you feel like you achieved something that day, that's a very small step that's totally doable to start making you feel less like a loser and more of who you truly are. Because you truly are abundant, you truly are happy, you truly are love, you truly are those things. We just forget as we grow older.
Right. Oh, definitely. And I think that's something that people don't realize is that the playbook in life they're dealing with is so often not their own. They never took the time to create it. It was what their parents gave them, or what was it from the environment that they grew up in. And they don't realize how it's not serving them going forward. But people don't necessarily have the catalyst needed to change it. So what do you feel are the ways that people can recognize that the playbook that they've been working with is not working? Sometimes people are blinded by the environment they're in.
Yeah, that's the hard part. I mean, let me see. Today we're over 200 episodes right now, where I'm just editing episode 232. So of all those people that I've talked to, some people do have that breakdown moment where they're just at their wits' end. They're crying on the bathroom floor thinking, how is this my life? And other people were more intuitive and could just pick up little signals. So I think it's different for everyone. I think that but the word that you've said a couple times is serve. And to me, when I first was getting into this and hear people say, is it serving you or not? Let go of people who don't serve you. I thought it was a very shallow negative thing. Like, I'm not going to let go of people who aren't serving me. Why do I need to get things from people? But really what it is, the service part is if you're feeling any of those negative feelings, fat, ugly, loser, those types of things, like if those are the feelings that you default to, that you generally feel when you look in the mirror and you're like, like every time you see yourself, or if you're seeing someone and you constantly compare yourself to people on Facebook, that's a sign that something that you've adopted somebody else's programming, because that's not the natural state. So I think it's you just got to watch. You got to try to ask, focus on an objective perspective or a bird's eye view of your life and your thoughts.
Right. Oh, definitely. And that it's profound in itself, because you look at how many times people go through their day-to-day business and they compare themselves to someone else, and then they begin to justify it. So they start feeling better about where they are. You think of, oh, well, that's for other people, not for people like me, to make themselves feel better.
Yeah, the other people. That's a big one. You are the other people. Everybody's the other people.
Right. It's not like, okay, we're going to just start categorizing everybody. So there's me and then everyone else.
Easy. So that's what we're programmed to do. That's what makes sense to us.
Right. Exactly. And it's all about what is it that you can be able to do. So in this process that, you've created the Love-is-a-Verb podcast, you've interviewed people. How have you taken that knowledge to begin helping other people through your coaching programs?
So before the podcast, I still do fitness. I still teach Pilates. I still do personal training online with people. So 16 years of that, there's always a focus of mindset and that kind of perspective, because you can't change your body through diet and exercise. It has to come from an internal compass to stop the overeating or actually motivate you to stay consistent working out instead of a punishment thing of, I hate going to the gym, that kind of stuff. So the mind stuff has always been there. But I think that the podcast has just added so much, because I've had to grow, because it's been hard. Like, if I'm going to host it, I've got to deal with my issues, and talking to so many people has actually brought up some of my issues where I'm like, oh, this is why I can still get depressed. I haven't worked on X, Y, and Z. So I think through this, it's like, I help people now, which is one of my favorite things, is through archetypes.
Okay.
And that has helped me not be so shameful of my feelings. So when I work with people now online, whether it's in a group setting or whether it's one-on-one, it's, are you being a rut dweller and just focusing on how hard it is? Are you being a success seeker and just worried about your next achievement? Are you a workaholic? Are you escaping through TV, food, alcohol, or drugs? Are you, oh my gosh, what's another great one? Are you a tyrant? Are you being a bully to everyone in your life because you're so miserable? And I think seeing categories and characters of what can be going on in your life allows you to detach so that you can kind of deal with stuff instead of feeling shameful of, I am a jerk, or I am a workaholic, or you stop identifying yourself and you start seeing a role that you might be playing in that moment.
Right. And it's so critical that people understand the role they're playing, because sometimes people have played it for so long, they don't know that they're doing it. You think of the people that are the tyrant out there. That was the environment they grew up in, that they were conditioned. Like, if you don't take control of the situation, then you're going to get stepped on. So then they were conditioned, step on others before you get stepped on. Mm-hmm. And then I realized how they've kind of demolished a path in front of them. And they think, like, I've created a path for success. No, you cause everyone to run away in the process.
Yeah.
That it's so powerful when you can recognize that. So when you're looking at understanding archetypes, what have you found to be one of the most effective ways for people to gain clarity and start making that course correction? So if they were, let's say, on the tyrant path, how do they, one, recognize it and then do something about it?
I think that it's opposites. It's duality. So the opposite of a tyrant would be a victim, and you don't want to be a victim.
No. Definitely not.
Yeah, but you want to look at the characteristics, because as soon as something is a characteristic, it's not who you are, and you don't have to identify yourself as that. Is the point of coaching through archetypes. So if someone's a tyrant, that means that you're bulldozing over people. You're having a temper tantrum when you're not getting your way. You're judging people, and I think the judgment's one of the easiest ways to go, because whatever you're angry about with other people, the only reason that it's upsetting you is because your subconscious is actually being like charged. Like that problem that you are seeing in somebody else is actually your own issue. Cause like there's so many times where you have an issue with somebody and when you actually talk to them, they're like, wow, that's not what I meant at all. I had no idea that's how you took it. So that's just a prime example of whatever you're a tyrant about and on a rampage about in other people, write down what you're angry about, because that anger is fuel. Like, again, you're innately abundant and loving and beautiful and happy. So the things that are making you angry, that's like your thing that you can actually make a difference in the world. So if you're the tyrant, write down what's pissing you off. Write down how you are bulldozing over people. And it's hard. And sometimes you have to find somebody that you trust, but try to figure out what it is in you or how you've been bulldozed over and how people have been angry with you and how people have victimized you, because it's all your perceived reality. So if you can find those triggers, find them within you, work on them within you, and know what it is, then you can actually make some changes.
Oh, definitely. And you have to do that. You have to be able to take those moments to look in the mirror and understand that, because people have to understand the answers we sometimes need to hear is inside of us, but we're not listening. We're drowning out that voice with all the external noise and missing it, which ultimately leads to people being unhappy. So when you look at the idea of creating abundance and understanding archetypes and so forth, how does it relate to people creating happiness in their life when they begin to love themselves more?
Well, I think knowing where unhappiness comes from comparing and keeping things in the future. So if everything is, I will be happy when I get a new car, when I get a new house, when I get a lover, when I have a baby, when my kids are grown, when my kids make it through college, when my kids get married, when you keep putting it off, you keep putting it off. It's not philosophy, it's physics. You will always be in a waiting period if you're constantly pushing off happiness. And the best way, the only way you can be happy now is to get present and say, I am so happy and grateful I have a laptop. I am so happy and grateful I have a phone that works. I'm so happy and grateful my car runs. I'm so happy and grateful I was able to take a shower today, because those things can all get stripped away. I mean, I feel like I had so much stripped away when the business closed of the inability to pay a bill. And I'm thinking, oh, like life sucks so bad. But then I'm doing my self-development exercise. I'm like, wow, I still have an iPhone. I still have a Mac laptop. Like, how fucking cool is that? How many people don't have an iPhone?
Right. Exactly. And I always think of, there's an image I saw several years ago that I use that frame of reference. No matter how crappy the day is, I think of this. There is an image of a construction site, and I think it was in Japan, where a person was in a porta potty and it was knocked over by a construction crane. And I thought, no matter how bad the day is, it is not as crappy as that.
Wow. I have not seen that. That's pretty funny. But it's the gratitude. If you can get present and be aware of everything that you have now,
right,
it'll change everything.
Right. Exactly. It's all about the perspective and, being thankful for what you have, just like you realize that you have a phone, you have all these things, you look at what you've been able to accomplish because you had these things. You look at how many businesses out there that were started with literally nothing. Like someone had, $1 in their pocket and then they had to build everything from scratch. Like, wait a second, you already have a huge head start. This is amazing. This is incredible. You can do this. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I think that's where people forget about, is that they have so much available to them, but they just have to become grateful for what they have and then build upon it.
Totally.
So now, Lauren, tell us a little bit more about the programs that you have that you're offering to help people.
Yeah. Well, I can't get too campy into the superheroes and superpowers and stuff, but basically, the gist of what I do with people is help them uncover that their pain is purposeful. And once we shed these human identities of tyrant, victim, rut dweller. Once we shed these human identities that we've learned to identify ourselves as, we can get into these superpowers of love, abundance, and happiness. And, my gosh, I mean, like one of my superpowers is love. I've got Love is a Verb as a podcast. So basically, it's a way which I work with people to uncover what their soul identity is. And it's fun. There's tons of people who do what I do, and we all say it in a different way. I am very practical in looking at a thesaurus and just looking for oppositional feelings to point us in the right direction. And we have a group coaching program where I only take 10 people at a time. We start it periodically. We don't have any in the works right now to give a start date or anything. But I also work with people one-on-one where we have emails, we have text messages, Facebook messages. We get together 1, 2, or 3 times a week on the phone on purpose, or to schedule at a specific time to get together and talk about things. The one-on-one is really where it's at for me, because it allows people to get deep in what's going on in their life without feeling like anybody else is going to, have an opinion about them.
Right. Oh, definitely. Especially when you're uncovering things that can be painful. Sometimes it's hard for people to open up those deep secrets in a group environment because someone wants to think, I don't want someone to judge me, but when it's one-on-one, it changes things.
Yeah. And I'm an open book. I talk about poop on Facebook, vaginas on Facebook. I mean, I try to put everything out there almost all the time without being too obnoxious. But the point is that we've all really dealt with a lot of the same things. And I think that it'll take the edge off. It takes the edge off for people, is at least is the feedback I get from people of now they ask me anything. They're like, well, you do talk about poop. So I have this question about my poop.
Well, once you talk about poop, it's well, I guess you can talk about anything at that point.
Totally.
So now, what is one of the programs that, people can be able to, that you have available right now, or how they can learn more about what you're offering? How can they go about doing that?
Well, to get started on a one-on-one, people can just go to bit.ly/chat with Lauren. And it's a 30-minute discovery call. We can do it over the phone. You can put your phone number in there or Skype or a Skype ID in there. But basically it's service-based. So we figure out, what's really hanging people up right now. What's one way that they can make changes in their life. And if they are a candidate for coaching, then we make arrangements to do coaching. Most likely it'll be one-on-one, but only if people are really ready to take action, because you have to be willing to go there. So if people are I don't know, let's see what you got, those aren't my people. My people are, I'm ready to do this. Tell me what to do. Tell me how to dive deep and let's do it together. So it's bit.ly/chat with Lauren.
Okay. Oh, that's excellent. And then what is one thing that someone can do today to begin recognizing there's love in their life to create abundance and happiness?
One, gratitude. Write down everything in your life that is amazing in one column, the things that you're legitimately happy about in your life. And then on another paper, write down the things that you're not happy about, because those ones that you're not happy about are going to be your biggest lesson and will eventually, if you do the work, be your superpower, be your innate intelligence of why your soul is here. The hard stuff is the lesson. The easy stuff that comes easy and you're happy about, it's awesome. It's icing on the cake. The stuff that you do not like, write that down. We can figure out a way to get you grateful for it. And then that will be your catalyst to have a big movement.
Oh, that's excellent. So then as we wrap up here, so if people want to get a hold of you, they can go to laurenherrera.com, correct?
Yes, I have an opt-in. If they go to laurenherrera.com/big, you guys can get a very simple way to look at the archetypes so that you can see what archetype is kind of showing up in your life and how you can make some changes today to get out of that and get into your love superpower.
Oh, that's excellent. Well, Lauren, it's been a pleasure to have you on the Big Movement podcast today to learn how you can be able to incorporate love in your life and really create abundance and happiness in your world.
Woohoo! Thank you for having me. This was awesome.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks for listening to the Big Movement Podcast today. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Now that you've surely been inspired to take your entrepreneurial career and business to the next level, you can stop by the website and get more. And if you're ready to boost your business brand, be sure to grab your free report, 7 Easy Steps to Build Your Brand Today.